You're listening to the Wayward Atheist Podcast. Hello, everyone. If this is your first time listening, thank you for joining us. This is a podcast where borders collide, where the gloves are off, where filters are removed, where we tell you exactly what we think about the news, politics, and religion. The Wayward Atheist Podcast is dedicated to free thought, reason, and the pursuit of truth. You can follow us on Twitter at Wayward Atheist, on Spreaker, Stitcher, and iTunes. You can email us at waywardatheistpodcast@gmail.com. or leave us a comment on our Facebook page. So without further ado, let's get on with the show.
Hello and welcome to the Wayward Atheist Podcast. I'm Dave, aka the Great White North.
I'm Big Black A Dave.
And I'm Ed, the Everyday Atheist.
And tonight we are joined by
Cory from the Brainstorm Podcast.
Obviously, that's where we know you from. I was a guest on your show before, so I figured I'd have you on ours as well.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Yeah, so Edward will do an interview, but before that, we've been off for over 20 days. So I'm just gonna say, I'm glad to be back. Had good holiday with my kids. Kids were freaking out over the presents, and it was good. Good little break anyways. How was your holidays, Dave?
It was good. Busy. Lots of family, work and projects that need to be completed.
How's your composition coming along?
It's coming. I'm in the very tedious stage.
You're in the tedious
Parts,
stage. Like
parts.
editing it out.
Yeah, parts.
Did you know that Dave is a professional composer?
I think I heard that on one of your previous episodes.
So right now he's composing a theme song for the Canada's 150th birthday for a town. What's the town called, David? David.
It's a town sort of west of Owen Sound, Ontario. It's actually not for the 150th birthday, but for their the anniversary of their music program.
Okay.
So they commissioned me to compose a work to celebrate their 30th anniversary.
Oh, I thought my bad. I thought it was a Canada Day.
It coincides, but
okay, it coincides.
It's really for them. But
all right. And
yeah.
Edward,
I had a great holiday up until I got sick. So I've been sick for over a week now, and I'm just starting to come on the other side of it. Other than that, it's been it's been really well. I got a lot of great books. So if anybody doesn't know, I'm a really ferocious reader, and I like to get a lot of books. So that has been my holidays, and that's it.
I got to tell you, from viewing from afar, I think your wife is probably the most holiday crazy person I've ever seen. Like, she had you going everywhere. And I was like, hey, poor Edward. I call him like, yeah, I'm off to watch the Sens game. And he's like, oh, I'm going shopping again. I was like, well, have fun. I'll be drinking beer at the Senators game.
My wife actually had to put it in extra gear this year because this was like the first year without our mother for Christmas. So it was a hard year for her, and so she wanted to be around family so that it wouldn't lessen the blow. So that was what we were doing most of the time.
And you had a lot of company over.
Yeah.
And you went to a lot of different houses.
Yeah, well, that's traditional Newfoundland. You just nonstop family.
Yeah. And you seem kind of fucking knackered after all of it.
It's
probably why you got sick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, jeez. New Year's didn't end for me till like 4 a.m, and then I was up again at like 7. So
right on. And Cory, how does a secular person in the Bible Belt of Canada celebrate the holiday season?
Very quietly.
You hide? Yeah, there you go. You close the curtains, turn off all the Christmas lights because you don't want hymns being sung to your children.
Yeah, that's right. No, we got a hotel room and we celebrated Christmas in the hotel. It was pretty cool.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But you just bought a new house, didn't you?
Yeah, in September, me and my girlfriend got a house in Regina, actually. I used to live in Wayburn, so.
Oh, okay, so that's why, yeah, okay. Because your children are still there, I'm going to assume, right?
My son actually moved up to the city with us, but
okay.
My daughter is still in Wayburn with her mom.
Okay, so you traveled up to visit with your daughter, with your son?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, right on.
We picked her up and
right on.
Got a hotel. It was cool.
Good deal. Okay, so Edward, as we know, as we all know, if you listen to my episode, or the episode of Brainstorm Podcast that I was on, was applying for the job to be the Brainstorm's official fucking fluffer. And for all you ex-Mormons that are listening, because I know you're out there, a fluffer is somebody that sucks a porno star's dick in between takes so that it doesn't go soft.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let Edward do the interview. All right, well, we're back from the break, so Edward's going to take over the show. Don't fuck it up, Ed.
Yeah, no. I've been anticipating this for a bit. Cory, just so that our viewers get to know you a little better, were you ever religious or were you always an atheist?
I didn't call myself an atheist until I was in my 30s. I think when I was 18, I started calling myself agnostic, and I kind of believed some pretty silly shit for a long time. Kind of like, have you ever heard of mass perceptionism?
Yeah, for the guy that didn't subscribe to any of the shit.
Yeah. Mass perceptionism was kind of the idea that the more people who believed in a thing, the more reality adhered to that belief.
So popularity fallacy.
Yeah, more or less. Like, if everybody believed that humans could fly, then suddenly humans would be able to fly.
Fuck is holy shit.
Yeah, like there was a lot of not very critical thinking type of time in my life. So
I think and sorry for interjecting into you, Ed. I think maybe you would have had a better time speaking with Frederick than somebody that's just not. You know what I mean? Like, I think you would have been a little more understanding with him than I was.
Well, I don't know. I think that I'm less patient with that type of thinking than I used to be.
Okay. Well, I think anybody would have been more patient than me. Right?
So, yeah, when you're around 30, you said you came out as an atheist. What changed you from the agnostic stage to the atheist, the outright atheist portion of it?
I was going through a lot of stuff at that time. Like, actually, my marriage was on the rocks, and I felt really shitty about myself, so I started lifting weights, and I started reading a lot and watching a lot of YouTube videos, and I read God Is Not Great by Hitchens, and it was like, okay, well, obviously I'm an atheist, and this is fucking, like, I have to fight this stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, Hitch was the one that got me to cross over to the dark side too, so.
Yeah. He is, way with words really, could grab a person really well.
Yeah, the way he spoke, it was unbelievable. I haven't seen an orator like that in my lifetime.
Ed, are we really going to turn this into a Ed sucks Christopher Hitchens' dick again?
No,
because that hasn't happened enough on this show before.
Okay.
What did you feel that you had to fight? You mentioned that upon listening to Christopher Hitchens' work. When your mind at the time, what did you feel that you had to fight?
Well, I read that God Is Not Great, and there was things like when children were circumcised and then the rabbi puts his mouth on the baby's penis, like that kind of shit just made me like mad, even just reading about it, eh? And so then I thought, oh, well, somebody has to like push against this kind of idea where anybody can do whatever they want in the name of religion.
Yeah, and I think compared to David and I's reference of religiosity in Canada, you two live in the two most religious provinces in the country.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I think you have a different view of what needs to be thought about, because so even though I was pretty much always an atheist, I didn't always give a shit about it, right? Like, I was too concerned with other things. You know my story, so I was too busy dealing with much more heavier shit than that. But once I was able to settle into life, and I first realized, okay, so I knew I didn't believe in God, but I didn't realize I was part of this bigger community. And once I came to that realization, then at first I was like everybody else, where they're like, fuck them, we gotta fight the system. But then I slowly started to come around in my thinking, and I was like, well, I live in a place where it's pretty goddamn secular, and I actually don't really have to deal with any religious bigotry, and there's no Christians trying to make crazy laws in my province. And I live in the capital of Canada, so it's pretty governed secularly, and I was just like, that's an American problem, and I'll speak for my American friends and bring up stories and give my opinions on those thoughts. But I really don't have anything to fight other than the fact that we have Catholic school board here. There's nothing really, there's no boogeyman in my closet. But I know in your province that they do try to change laws and stuff.
Yeah, it actually seems like it's been more and more the last few years, like say, I don't know, maybe even the last 5 years, it's been worse all the time because Brad Wall, as he gets older, turns into a more conservative, more old fogey type thinker, like where he was almost more progressive when he first was put into office. And the NDP at that time in Saskatchewan were the ones saying, oh, well, we got to keep things the way they always have been. And we got to keep alcohol out of strip clubs and all this shit.
Wow. I mean, remember, never go to a strip club in Saskatchewan.
That's why they don't exist.
Yeah, no shit. On the line of Brad Wall, I saw the other day he was taking some shit for calling the Prime Minister a shithead.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister is a goddamn shithead, though.
Well, that's
but
the
one thing that I wouldn't give him shit about. There is so much more. Oil leaks in the river that he doesn't give a fuck about. The fact that he's anti-LGBT, like all those other like actual things. Trudeau is a fucking shithead.
Well, he is, but Brad Wall's giving him shit for the wrong reasons. Like, he's bitching about the carbon tax because for whatever reason he's whining about that. Brad Wall is pushing for oil all over the place, and he doesn't give a shit about any of that stuff either. But in the shithead way that Trudeau's a shithead, Wall is a shithead too.
Yes. Well, I would classify Wall as more than a shithead, right?
Well, yeah, that's right.
I don't know. He wrote a love letter to Castro. Any wiggle room that he did have left with me as soon as I read his little love letter to a person that wrapped gay men in barbed wire and stuffed their orifices with sand is fucking lost, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue with you there. It was the wrong move. It was not a cool thing to do.
And it just shows that that's what he actually thinks, right? In a sense, you're kind of glad he did it because now we know. You think communism is fucking great, you know? You think a tyrannical dictator is a fucking good guy, and you have a nickname for him, El Comandante, or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah.
You know? Like, now we know, and I'm happy that I know.
So, my next question is, how did you come to form the solid group that you have, that is the Brainstorm Podcast? How did you guys come together and form that?
Well, I guess honestly, the reason that we started the podcast is because of my massive ego. And we've all been friends for over 20 years, eh? We all went to high school together, or we played D&D together back when we were in our early 20s or late teens. And we were just drinking one night, and like after my divorce, I went up every 2 weeks to drink with the guys anyway. And I was like, you know what? Other people need to hear what we have to say. See what the guys think about starting a podcast. And you know, the longer you do a show, the more you realize that you're not as smart as you think you are. But yeah, we've all been friends for a long time, at least up until the more recent incarnation of the show, when we've had the last year, we've had Leo and Angela, and I met them through our local Center for Inquiry group. And then more recently, we have Lisa, who actually Gumby sold her a car because he's a car salesman. And just in their random conversation, she said, oh yeah, I'm a physicist. So he's like, oh shit, you should come join us on the podcast. so far that's working out pretty good. She's pretty fun. So
yeah, it's a great mix of people. If you haven't listened to the show, I recommend you do it. It's awesome. And they have some great opinions back and forth. They have great dialogue and a great rapport. So
Gumby's a good one to have on the show because he doesn't give a fuck about what he says. So he can be against the entire group of us, and he'll still push, and it makes for a good argument. So
yeah, I mean, but you guys don't take it to a point where the friendship is compromised by the argument.
Right.
You leave it at the stage that it's an argument that anybody can have an opposite opinion. It's the validity of the argument itself that you talk about.
That's right.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. Yeah. What is your next phase? Do you think in not just the podcast, but in trying to make or keep your province more secular, or to increase its secular? What do you think? Are you guys becoming more activists in that respect, or are you just wanting to help out people who are doing the work?
Well, I mean, in 2016 here in April, we had our very first atheist or secular conference. And so, I mean, then that was a huge success compared to what we were expecting. And then at the same time, we've been putting, like, our local CFI group has been putting petitions in to Brad Wall to have the prayer pulled from Legislative Assembly. And, although we'll never actually get it, we've been asking him to stop with the religious messaging at Christmas time. But yeah, that's not likely to stop. But
well, I've got a great idea. Trump wants a wall. Send fucking Brad Wall down south. Fucking Wall
right.
Orange, man.
Yeah,
he would get along great. Well, him and Pence.
Yeah, that's right.
Wall and Pence would get along great. I think they would be like secretly giving each other handjobs and shit. Because you know those super regressive religious types, they're also like usually have some latent homosexuality within them. I'm sure within a week it would be like handies in the fucking White House. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
I do have a question. Have you joined that group that you're the Secular Alliance of Canada?
Oh yeah, they call it the Criticast Network.
And how is that so far?
Oh, it's good. I mean, it's just basically a discussion group at this point, right? Everybody's just kind of saying, "Oh well, if you'll play our promo, we'll play your promo, and maybe I'll have you on as a guest if you have me on as a guest," kind of things like that. Kind of discussing.
Okay. Yeah, we did get their email, but well, let us know how that goes, and maybe we'll join as well.
Yeah, I know. Like Ian Bushfeld, the guy who's kind of started it. I Facebook friended him, and like we've been talking back and forth, and he seems like a really cool dude. So
Sweet.
Right on.
So being in Saskatchewan and sort of being a community there of atheists and freethinkers, can you describe what that's like? What kind of community are you a part of? Are they close? Are they far? Are you distant? Are you?
Well, I mean, the main centers are obviously Regina and Saskatoon, right? And but each group, like the Regina Center for Inquiry group, is actually a pretty tight-knit group. And the Saskatoon group is tight-knit up there, and they actually have a lot of events that they do up in the city. Where Regina doesn't do as many events, but we all keep in touch, and we have hung out a couple times just for whatever reason. So I guess it's a good community. It's pretty close, not very big, and it seems like if we are doing any kind of protests, then like, because there have been protests against like out in front of like psychic events and stuff, because it's not just religion that's a problem, right?
Yes.
And but it's only like a handful of people actually make it to those protests.
And because our provinces are pretty the religiosity anyway is pretty equivalent. What is the major religious group in your area that you have to combat? I know in my province is Roman Catholic and Anglican. But what is the main thrust of your opposition in?
I'm not entirely sure that there'd be like a specific group. Like it's more of a generic Christian type mentality that goes on around here. Like if you try to get where the Lord's Prayer isn't played at your kid's school, then you get a lot of backlash. But if you aren't fighting against something, then you might not ever hear anything that they're saying. You might not hear your buddy preaching, but as soon as you say, "Oh well, I don't appreciate Brad Wall's Christmas message," he's like, "Oh, well, get the fuck out of my province then."
Yeah.
So
you gotta love it when somebody's their immediate response is, "Well, get the fuck out if you don't like it." Like, because me not liking this one thing makes my life entirely suck here. Like,
right.
there may be like a fucking 150 other things that I really like, but because I don't like this one thing, get the fuck out. Like, Jesus Christ, man. So my favorite play of all time is based on Saskatchewan. I don't know if you've ever heard of this play. It's called Saskatchebuzz.
Oh no, I have not.
And the premise of the play is this: Saskatchewan votes to leave Canada, okay? But canola sales dry up. So what the newly founded country of Saskatchewan decides to do is grow marijuana instead of canola. It was awesome. It was a fucking great play, man. It was a great play.
One of the things that we had encountered in my province is that they tried to raise the Christian flag. Well, they actually succeeded for like 3 days before, because we don't have a CFI here. We don't have any atheist groups that combat it. So I
geez.
took to the radio, and I got a lot of backlash for it. But what I drove home, and I think ultimately got the flag taken down, and I can't say just me. There were much more than me. Just one of the points I drove home on the radio was that if you do it for Christians, you have to do it for Muslims, you have to do it for Jews, and you have to do it for atheists and Satanists. And that the thought of having to do that for everybody is why it came down. The opposition is this is secular, but it's either all or none. If you do it for one, you do it for all. And I think when they realize, oh wait, I'm doing this for, I got to allow Muslims, I got to allow other religious groups to do this, then they go, oh fuck, okay, back up, don't do it.
Yeah, that's kind of the strategy that the Satanists down in the States have, eh?
Yeah.
Well, you got to let us in, and then of course nobody wants to let them in because they're devil worshippers, right? So.
Remember in the 80s the Satanist scare?
Oh yeah.
Like they were on every fucking talk show, and like I was a kid, I bought into it too. I was like, that must be, the way Satanists act, and like they fucking having rituals and fucking stealing children and fucking sacrificing them to the Dark Lord, and then you find out they're just a bunch of atheists that like to role play. Yeah,
there was a movie that came out in the 80s around that time, like that was like about D&D and these kids that played D&D and killed their parents or something, and it was like,
yeah, Tom Hanks was in that.
Right.
Mazes and Monsters.
Is that what it was called?
Yeah, Mazes and Monsters. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, and because I played D&D, I was like, no, that's bullshit. Obviously, this whole thing is nonsense. But
do you remember when the records, if you played them backwards, they would say,
"Oh yeah,
Satanist," Satan's voice would come out. Oh, so fucking bullshit.
Yeah, and everybody was killing themselves because of Ozzy Osbourne.
So, not that long ago, right?
Oh yeah, not when you think about it, it's not that long ago. Yeah, and it was like a societal belief, right? It was like. It was like obviously some people were like it's bullshit, but like on the norm, like really smart people fucking believe that shit because you play it backwards, it sounds like wah, 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 and everybody's like, "See, he said Satan," and you're like, "Huh?" It sounded like wah, 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 wah. No, it said we are Satan's people. No, it didn't. It didn't.
Yeah. Michael Shermer does a bit about that on one of his talks, and like then once he tells you what you can what you're supposed to hear, then you can hear it. But until then, it's just garbled nonsense.
I told a story on the old podcast. I don't know. It was a Halloween episode, and I was probably like 12 years old, and we started making shit up to each other, right? And we're like, oh, it's April 7th. That's the day that fucking, that's Hell's Day. And fucking, we're like, there's demons in the city. There's definitely demons. And if you do this, then for sure this is going to happen. And like, I already didn't believe in God at this point, but still just saying it back and forth and the kids coming up with stuff, the group think in that we convinced each other of these things. Not only did we convince each other of it, but we convinced the goddamn adults that this was happening. That April 7th was like Satan's Day and the world was coming to an end and all this fucking shit. Like it was, now that I look back on it, it's fucking hilarious. like you're so bored in Northern Canada, you're going to be making fucking like ridiculous stories up and be running around. And like we were actually running from demons that didn't really exist, and I knew that they didn't really exist, but in that in that space and time of that moment in the group think, everybody started running like there was demons and like people were going to start killing, like it was nuts. You can kind of see, well, I was a child, but you can kind of see where the
yep.
Well, it's exactly like Salem witch trials, right? That's exactly what happened. Like these girls accused other people of being witches, and that's led to this big, massive kill-off in Salem, right? All these people being charged with witchcraft. So I can understand that groupthink is powerful. Yeah,
and you can see why it fucking and you don't want to feel like you're left out either, right? You're in a Pentecostal church. All of a sudden, somebody stands up and starts going shamalaka laka Hermione ho, and then fucking the person's beside the pastor comes over and fucking Satan be gone and fucking punches them in the face basically, and then they fall over and they start twitching and like. I understand from Christian groups that the pastor is like everything to them, right? So they're like, well, I want attention from the fucking pastor too. And so they start fucking doing the Shemaleka high and fucking convulsing, and he comes over and punches them too. I saw a pastor that was actually kicking people in the face. Like legit kicking people in the face. Motherfucker, you kicked me in the face, we're scrapping right here, right fucking now. I don't give a fuck if we're in your stupid fucking God's house or not. You kick me, you're in trouble.
It's the UFC.
Especially a goddamn pastor. All right, well, we're back from the break, and tonight we're going to be talking about far-right fascism. I know, like, a lot of people like to just say, like, Republicans are far-right or liberals are far-left, but there are actual groups that are far-right, and that's fascism, and far-left is communism. So we're going to be doing a 3-part series. We're doing fascism, then we're doing communism, and then we're doing the groups that are kind of fighting against them within the political spectrum and also in the physical spectrum, because there are physical confrontations between these groups in Europe. It hasn't really spilt over as much here, a little bit in the US, but not as much in Canada, the physical confrontations between these groups. So we thought it was a pretty important topic to get out there, because it is on the rise. It's growing. And that's a problem. That's a problem for everybody, because history's kind of repeating itself in Europe.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think is the cause of these groups arising is that you're seeing that there's a major financial crisis that has happened all over the world, especially, you can say in the United States and in Europe. As David just said, that there has been a history is starting to repeat itself. This is one of the reasons why the fascistic parties rose up in the 1920s and 30s. The idea that there was major poverty or economic crises happening in various locations throughout Europe, and one group came up with an idea of how to solve that problem. And this is again reemerging in that same exact way that you see that today.
And part of the issue is, and I'm not saying that it's right that they're doing this by any means, but not only is there an economic issue, but then they also have a boogeyman to blame, and that's the migrants. Now, so couple that with the economic troubles, and then you have the exact same formula that you did in 1920, 1930 Germany.
Exactly the same prescription. And this is one of the reasons why we're trying to post an opposition in our own way to these groups. And this is hence the reason for the 3-part series. So
we're going to start in Canada, because we're not immune to having right-wing fascist groups just like anybody else is. I think part of the thing is, like, they're always going to be there, but if you don't have those other formulas added in, then they're going to stay small. They're loud, but they're going to stay small. So we'll start in Canada, and Edward is going to read an article.
Well, the first group we're going to encounter are called the Soldiers of Odin. This is a group that began in the Nordic countries in Europe, and it's a fascistic response. And the reason why we're going to start with the Soldiers of Odin is because they had just opened a chapter in Saskatchewan, Cory's home province.
Yeah, we actually talked about this on Brainstorm a couple months ago. They claim that they're peaceful.
Yeah, and this is the article that the article is from CBC. It's called Soldiers of Odin Canada, not the same as what's going on overseas, but I don't think that they're being honest and forthright in their media attention. They're trying to sidestep a major issue that this group is having. So I'm going to begin the article, and we'll talk about it after. The Soldiers of Odin Canada may share the same name as the anti-refugee, anti-immigration group formed in Finland, but it claims its mission statement is anything but the same. Joel Agnott, president of the Soldiers of Odin in Canada, based in Manitoba, told CBC News that the group is looking to serve its communities in a form of a neighborhood watch group, picking up garbage, cleaning up city parks, and reporting crime to local law enforcement. But because of the group's name, they're being forced to strike down misconceptions that they say are a fringe group looking to keep Canada white. That's just a misinformation that's being brought over from other countries, Agnut said. What they do over in Finland and in Europe, they have all sorts of different issues altogether. That's not really what we are. We're an independent charter of the Soldiers of Odin. We're a community watch group. And I'm going to just leave it there for now. Let's delve into that a little bit, because one of the things that we're seeing with these really right-wing fascistic groups is that they are doing a lot of community work.
The community work that they're doing, and like when we get into Golden Dawn a little later on, is they're specifically doing it for Greek nationalists, or in the case of the Soldiers of Odin, we have police officers, we have garbage men, like we have city workers that clean up our cities. So you know that they're placating, or they're in their own way virtue signaling to the people that would be looking at maybe poorer areas where you would have, especially Manitoba and Saskatchewan, maybe native people living there. And so they're going down into these areas and saying, see, we're stopping the crime, we're cleaning up the area. So they're signaling their own style of virtues to the people that would think that those areas need to clean up and that native people are criminals and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big things that that you're seeing with this group, especially in Canada, is you're not seeing, as Agnut said, the violence that they're having in Finland and other areas, but they are trying to build a base of support, and indirectly what they're doing is trying to show the best side of them, so that when push comes to shove, that they'll have the community support, and even if something does happen in the future.
That's actually a tactic that organized crime uses.
Yeah,
so
I was thinking the same thing.
I grew up around a lot of bikers, and that's what bikers do. You know, they give away they go to children's sick hospitals, they give toys to them, they do community service during the day, and at night they're selling cocaine and beating the fuck out of people. And like, I know this for a fact, right? So, and I said this to you when we first read the interview, that is the same tactic that the Hells Angels, that Satan's Choice, that other organized crime syndicates use in order to gain popularity within the community and a standing within the community, so that when the cops do not harass them, but when the cops do try to do their job and arrest them, then they can say, look, they're harassing us, we're good people, look at all the stuff that we're doing. And if they really weren't tied to the European chapters, why wouldn't you just fucking change the name? I know he's got some lame ass excuse like Origins or some bullshit, but I mean, like, if you really didn't want the racist baggage, change the name.
Yeah,
you definitely get a sense that they're building up a public relations tactic that's going on. In your research, Ed, did you get a sense if they have any kind of political strategy building up from that?
They're not the Canadian chapters. Well, especially the one in Saskatchewan. I can't talk about the one in Montreal. It's a totally different incarnation. It's more like the Finnish version. The one in Saskatchewan is playing the PR game. They are actually just trying to win a PR war right now. And I think the political aspirations will come later. Right now, what they're trying to do is put a big PR spin on their group so they can get more people involved and build. It's more of a marketing campaign, if you will.
Yeah, what do you think about the group in Saskatchewan, Cory?
I think they're full of shit, is what I think. Like, I read an article a while back about them supposedly patrolling the park. Well, to me, that's inherently intimidating to people. A group of guys in uniformed almost gear, I guess, and walking around the park looking intimidating and looking for crime, supposedly. But what are they going to do if they find something that's not okay?
My question. Like, that's my question. So what if they're in the park, and for people, this is going to be very Canadian centric. I'm sorry. What if they're in the park and they come across a group of IP, which is Indian Posse for people that aren't Canadian, that don't know street gangs. So they're in the park, or Red Alert. The Red Alert is out west too, and you have a group of Odin soldiers, and you have a group of the Indian Posse in the park at the same time. They're just going to peacefully no, there's going to be a physical confrontation. And I think that's probably right. where it's going to end up and lead to, right?
Yeah, I mean, you just think about what's happened in Finland right now with the soldiers of Odin. They are actually combating criminals. They're actively doing it. So I can't. I no matter how much of a PR spin they're going to put on this, the ultimate goal here is to combat the criminal element. And I can't just say criminal element because I think they're going to combat more than that in the future.
Yeah.
From all other.
Is part of it too? I'm not sure, but it's part of it too that they feel that the government or the state is not doing their job in combating these. Like the government is not doing the proper job, so we have to step in and do this.
Well, that's what I was before the show started. I was kind of explaining a little bit of the fascist ideology. That's one of the things that fascists believe is that like a democratically elected liberal government is inept at handling crime and along with those types of things like
the law and order,
law and order type of stuff. Like you need a strong leader and a strong dictator in order to kind of combat crime and law and order. And they even if you look at Nazis, they started out as a group like this. Do you know what I mean? Like they were like a grassroots group that started combating crime and other things like with the Jewish people and beating people up. And then slowly they bolstered their numbers and started like attacking other political parties within the country and physically attacking them. We're not just talking about like when you have the hour of confrontation in the parliament here in Canada where the PM gets fucking drilled by the other parties. No, we're talking about like physical confrontation out in the streets. And usually when you see these groups, and I'm not going to say that's the Sons of Odin right now, but usually when you see these groups, you have the political part of their group and then the soldier force part of their group. The political will tell the force what to do, but they're part of the same fucking group. They're part of the same ideology.
Well, exactly. And I think there's a third wing of it is the public relations department, what you'd say. They have the political, the social, and then they have the enforcement side of it. So it's almost like a government in and of itself. It has the social aspect where it provides food, it provides clothing, it provides deterrent from crime, and then they also have the political strategy where they will actually try to infiltrate governments and actually make and you'll see this in other groups more prominently in Europe. But you're going to see this more and more in countries where there is an economic crisis, and you're seeing it right now in the United States, but more so in Europe. Europe is really ripe right now for this kind of debauchery.
I would say too, like, I don't want to call everybody low information voters. So if you have somebody that hasn't looked into things and doesn't have the necessary information, and you have a group of these people that are, say, in Saskatchewan, and they are cleaning up a neighborhood that was fucked up. They're not doing it for the right reasons, but they're cleaning up the neighborhood. Maybe they're selecting a certain group of people to hand food out to, or if a crime happens, they can call the fucking soldiers of Odin and they come right away, where the police, it may take longer because they're policing the entire city, not just one neighborhood. They're obviously cleaning up these neighborhoods for the wrong reasons, right? Like I was explaining earlier, it's a type of virtue signaling. They may fill a single mother's fridge full of groceries when she needs it. They can call them when a crime happens. Later on, when they do have political aspirations, and you see that person's name on the ticket, and you may not know anything other than the fact that they cleaned up this one neighborhood, or they were there for you when a crime happened, or they gave you food, you're going to vote for that person, right?
It's a powerful strategy, I have to admit. It makes for it really is a great thing for mass enculturation and mass getting the masses involved in a particular organization that they would normally not even entertain.
Well, and if people are afraid for some reason, even if it's not a good reason, then it's easy to manipulate that emotion and kind of say, "Oh, well, we're the good guys. We're helping you," and get them on your side. So.
Yeah, and at the same time, we have to be honest. In the lower income neighborhoods, more crime happened. Like, we have to be honest about that, right? So, and I mean, because of the way that Canada has treated our native population and continues to kind of have a financial and educational apartheid with them. I'm not talking about apartheid in the sense of the 50s and 60s, 70s. I'm talking about just a financial and an educational apartheid. They tend to live in the lower income neighborhoods, and when you're poor, you tend to commit more crimes. It's just a fact, and I'm not singling them out in this because there's tons of white people that are in those neighborhoods that are doing the same thing too. But it's kind of a spot where these type of people can point to and say, this is the cause of your problems. Your taxes are high because these crimes are happening. They're a burden on the system, and it's just I can see it as bullshit, but not everybody will. Because other people, like, I know it. As a person working in the construction industry, I hear stupid people say stupid shit all the time. You know?
Yeah, I mean, just think about this for a second. If the government is not assisting you properly in your area, meaning that there's not enough police to police the area where you live. You don't have enough food to eat. You have a choice between heating your home and putting food in on the table. And then you have a group like the Sons of Odin coming to your home, giving you food, cleaning up the neighborhood policing the neighborhood which you live in. It becomes not only a happier place to live in, it becomes a safer place to live in, and you have food in your belly. That becomes a psychological, it changes the psychology of this group for you. You don't see, you're willing to look past things that you would never normally look past because you have this frame of reference that supersedes the bad stuff. You don't see the reasons why they're doing it. You just see that they're doing it. There's something being accomplished which the government isn't doing.
And actually, Saskatchewan's actually a really good place for a group like this to get a strong foothold, because there's already so much xenophobia, like there's so much fear of the other, and there's so much discrimination going on and prejudice against First Nations people or Aboriginal people. And so a group like or Muslims or anybody who is easy to other, right? So these soldiers of Odin come in, and all they have to do is say the same thing that other people are saying and just help in the smallest way, and people will just jump on board.
Yeah, and because of our parliamentary system, they don't have to gain like too much power in order to be able to affect the system here. All they need is a seat, and in that area that they're in, they can affect change.
Yeah.
So it's not right. Like in the U.S. where they would have to, you'd have to have almost a governmental takeover in order because you have two parties and you kind of have to deal within that. But in order to change, just like a riding, they just need that one seat. They just need to get one riding, and within that area, they can enact public change.
Exactly.
One more thing that we'll say about this, and then we'll carry on. How do we combat this before it turns into a problem here? Not that it's not a problem, but a bigger problem.
There has to be, not only from the federal government, but there also has to be initiatives from the provincial and the municipal governments to try to combat areas that are of high risk. You have areas that are economically destroyed. Look at the oil sands area of Alberta, for instance. These were thriving, high-paying jobs that are gone, and these people are in an economic crisis right now. And if you allow this to stew and not be able to help these people in an adequate way, then you are laying bed a seed that will germinate into allowing a group such as the Sons of Odin or the other ones we'll talk about, which are a bit more ominous than the Sons of Odin are, to take hold. And this is where our social programs need to be more robust than they are right now. And the minor things that our Prime Minister is doing is not enough. This is a constant battle. This is not something that will go away in 5 years. This is a constant battle that we have to put these groups at bay. They will always exist. whether you do everything right. It's just that you don't allow these groups to germinate to with a big, massive foothold. That's the only way to combat that is our social programs that help out and better infrastructure support.
And we'll give Cory last thought on it.
I was just thinking that I'm a big fan of the approach to these things, like with information, like making sure that the information about a group like Soldiers of Odin is out there. Just as an anecdote, my girlfriend is part of the I Help Regina group on Facebook. And so people who need food or clothes or whatever can post in this group and they can ask for help. And people from the group will go and take food or clothes to these people who need it. And members of the Soldiers of Odin wanted to join this group, but because the information was out there, the admins of the group wouldn't let them join, and as a result, they can't use this tool that's actually got a very good reputation in Regina to bolster their position.
Right, but the only problem I see with that kind of exclusionary tactic is the fact that they can spin this in a PR way to say that we want to help. We're being labeled by something that happened in Europe, and this is not happening.
What do you suggest that they do? Allow the Sons of Odin to come in and hand shit out?
No,
and you have to say no.
But that's the catch-22. What do you do? Yeah. In that respect.
So your girlfriend must have been super happy to hear that we were talking about her.
Actually, I didn't mention that we were talking about this. Yeah. The Soldiers of Odin is not a very popular group in our household.
Yeah, I guess not. We just don't have them here yet. I'm sure they're coming. We have other kind of similar things, but they're mostly against Muslims. They're not necessarily out there trying to we have faux biker gangs that are completely just against Muslims. So
when you guys are speaking about the sort of niches that these extremist groups are trying to play into, I kind of see it like the groups that go out to third developing countries and exploit their needs to further their own doctrine, missionaries, I guess.
Yeah.
What you would call it. I sort of see the same sort of philosophy where people are very vulnerable. You come in and you meet their needs, but you sneak in a philosophy and you indoctrinate them in the same sort of fell swoop. So in some way, those groups, you can say that they do a good, sort of like on the face of things, but at the same time, you have to kind of be worried about what they do, what the long-term effects of their indoctrination and their missionary work is.
Just like religion, they have an agenda. Like they're not doing good for the sake of doing good. They have an agenda behind it. And it's kind of like the guy, like when you brought that up, it's kind of, his name escapes me, but you'll know him because you hate him. The guy that went over to Uganda and those other places and started spewing the gay hatred and, got homosexuality made against the law in Uganda and other countries. What's his name? Not Scott Lively. Is it Scott Lively?
Scott Lively, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, Scott Lively. That's who it is. He's a fucking cunt too. But anyways,
one more thing when it comes to the comparison with religious organization is that you have to understand that these are also tied to religious groups. The Sons of Odin they're not a Christian group as such. From my reading of them, they're more of a pagan. They go back to Norse gods like Odin, the father of Thor. They are
super bullshit then.
Yeah, they're
not just bullshit, but super bullshit.
Right. So they're tying themselves with religious faith in some respect. And so you're getting this concept of we're helping you because we're Christian, or we're helping you because we have faith. These are all tied into a religious mindset. And this is why it worked in Germany. That's why Germany, during Hitler's run, he didn't have a chance politically, but because he made a concordat with the Catholic Church, the Catholic Right Party, which was would have been the governing party of the time, withdrew its candidacy and allowed Hitler a full run at the government. So this is the type of things that you have to worry about. It's this PR bit that will turn into a political opportunity later on in the future.
Okay, so we're going to head into the break and we'll be back with the next segment.
I'm Cory from the Brainstorm Podcast, and you're listening to the Wayward Atheists.
Okay, so we're back from the break, and in this portion of the show, we're going to be talking about the Golden Dawn. This is a Greek nationalist party, anti-immigrant, all-around assholery, but it's actually infiltrated the United States, and now Edward has just informed me of Montreal. Because when we were doing the research for the show, we actually started researching the show before the holiday. Like, we had the plan to do this 3-part series. So since then, it has come to light that there's actually a chapter in Montreal as well. And I'll let Edward take over.
Okay, this article comes from the National Post. It's called "The Anti-Immigrant Greek Political Party Accused of Being Racist Open a Canadian Chapter."
I just want to say one thing before. There's no accusations here. Right? Like it's pretty fucking blatant.
Yeah.
At least in Greek, right? Like there's like you can't go around fucking, you see a brown person selling t-shirts, you go over there, you say, "Let me see your papers." If they don't have papers, you destroy their merchandise and beat the shit out of them. I think it's a little bit beyond fucking accusations at that point, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, carry on. They're racist group. They're racist group.
Yeah. They are more than racist. The Golden Dawn, an anti-immigrant Greek political party, opens its chapter in Montreal. The Greek political party, the Golden Dawn, has been called a neo-Nazi organization, but Canadian supporters who opened a Montreal chapter this month say that couldn't be farther from the truth.
Oh, here we go again.
The Montreal chapter
Yep.
is one of only 2 outside of Greece. It launched in early September and began to collect food, medicine, and clothing to send to Golden Dawn headquarters in Athens for the needy. Organizers say they have sent about a ton of aid to Greece, but critics do not see this plan as quite so altruistic. The party chooses who to receive the donation, and as a rule, no immigrants will receive anything. The Canadian leader, Jimmy James, says that...
That fucking name. Right?
I know.
What's me? Jim James. Jimmy.
What comes to mind is Jesse James, like from one of the Outlaws. My name.
No, it's like, what's your name? Jimmy.
Jimmy.
No, seriously, fuckhead, what's your name? Jimmy.
Canadian leader Jimmy James says that restriction is justified because illegal immigrants are taking food from the country's historical inhabitants. It's a problem when a Greek is starving in his own country.
Oh, but you're a fucking Canadian. And, like, James, James, not only is that not a Greek last name, but who the fuck in Quebec has the last name James? Seriously. Like, you're not even French Canadian. Goddamn son of a bitch.
The Golden Dawn wasn't well known outside of Greece until this year, when it exploded from a fringe group to the 3rd most popular party in Greece, at 22% in the opinion polls. Many are shocked that the anti-austerity party has done so well. It holds 18 of 300 seats in parliament, considering it advocates the expulsion of all immigrants from Greece. The English language Athens Today calls it a fascist, racist movement of vigilante thugs. And now it's exporting its brand of ultra-nationalism to Canada. Deputy Leader Spiros Makrozaneris says the group has already attracted 152 members in Montreal. The party drew...
They're all like, my grandfather was Greek, my grandfather's grandfather was Greek, I'm a quarter Greek. I'm sure all these idiots that are part of this group, other than this fucking Jimmy.
The party drew heat amidst its rise in the polls when it released a video showing a squad of supporters and MPs, members of parliament, ransacking an immigrant flea market in Greece. Mr. Makrozaneris shrugged off the reaction. "If you step on my foot, I'm going to scream," he says. "We have the ugly side too." The ugly side is what has gained the party notoriety. The Golden Dawn is blatantly and proudly anti-immigrant, and they combine the political ideology of extreme right-wing xenophobic parties with the ethos and tactics of a street militia.
I just want to interject something really quick here. Like, these people don't understand how a modern economy works, right? Like, you need immigrants in a Western economy in order for the economy to run. If your country, and typically Western nations, aren't birthing enough people which we tend not to because the higher the education, the lower the birth rate, then you need immigrants. It's a fucking fact. And I don't really believe that if I immigrated to Greece and I was selling in a fucking market, that the Golden Dawn is going to come up to me and ransack my fucking thing, or they're not going to give me any support. I think they're going after brown people, like, period.
Not just that though, David. It's the fact that these people don't have papers that are setting up shop. The people that are setting up shop that have papers, they bypass. They say when they show them the papers, they know that they're contributing to the Greek economy, so they're bypassing them.
Okay.
The biggest thing that they have, they're not just targeting brown people; they're targeting Jews as well. There's a big stink that they've been.
Well, of course they are. They're fascist.
So, when we watched that video, remember he's asked for his guy's papers, and he didn't have any, and they just destroyed everything.
Destroyed him. Like, I wish we could play video on podcasts because, yeah, I've seen videos of, which I really, really hope it doesn't happen here, because I'm not opposed to punching people. Like seriously, if MPs start behaving in Canada the way, so my wife is brown, okay? I've seen videos of the Golden Dawn MPs in Greece yelling racial slurs at brown people and migrants walking through the city. I've seen them calling them down. I've seen them getting in their face. I've seen them acting like tough guys. And like, seriously, if you did that to my wife or my children, I'm going to lose my fucking shit.
And David, they also, one of the things that they do is they go to local sporting goods and buy these small baseball bats for the purposes of. And
the stores, the sporting goods stores, carry these bats that the Golden Dawn uses specifically. They hold them in a box in the store, and they're specifically for the Golden Dawn, these bats.
Yeah.
Like, they hold them in the store for them to come and purchase them so that they can go and fucking beat up the migrants.
And the thing is that when Greece got its massive influx of immigrants, a lot of, because they weren't vetted, there was nothing, there was just an open border policy, a lot of criminal element came in. There was a lot of people being broke in by immigrants. The police couldn't barely keep up with what was happening. The Golden Dawn stepped in with his vigilante justice and started doing it. They were these businesses that were held up 2, 3, 4 times weren't getting held up anymore because the Golden Dawn were their protection, basically. They call the Golden Dawn. They wouldn't call the police anymore.
There was an elderly lady, she, in her 60s, lifelong socialist voter. Voted socialist her entire life. Her shoe store was held up 3 times by migrants. She called the cops. Cops couldn't do anything about it. On the 4th turn, she called the Golden Dawn. They came down, handled the situation, beat up the migrants, and she now says that she's a Golden Dawn voter. So now you've lost a left-wing voter to this party because of what we were talking about earlier, the indoctrination, they're giving the support when the government's not. See, the government is inept. They can't handle this situation. But it is important to say that with the migrants, Greece wasn't necessarily the aim for the migrants. It was more like a staging point. Like, they come across that sea, the Mediterranean. They land in Greece. They march through Greece. Like, you can see videos of streams and streams of migrants marching through Greece, heading towards the call that was Germany. The wake that they left in their path was fucking terrible. Houses were destroyed, businesses were destroyed, garbage everywhere. So these people do have a legit complaint. Like, people just marched through our fucking country. 1 million plus people just marched through our fucking country to get to Germany. The government obviously cannot handle that situation. The Golden Dawn couldn't really handle it either. They can handle it on a one-on-one basis. So if one person calls them and says, this is happening, they can swoop down and do that. But what the fuck are they going to do against a million migrants? Nothing, just like the police didn't. But this is their spot to kind of jump in. So these Golden Dawn fucks, these fascists, they're always going to be around. and there'll be 2 or 3 of them or whatever. But now they do have that thing to point at, to be like, see, this is why you need us, because of this. And that's how they get an in. And then those people, they look at the fascists saying, we can handle this situation, like, because the people are feeling against the migrant population that have gone through. That's when they start gaining power, is because of the fact that happened. You know what I mean? Sorry if I'm kind of scatterbrained on that, but it's,
No, again, as you said, I mean, you have 1 million plus migrants. A country, even as big as the United States, for instance, economically could not sustain such a population going through. Then when you have an economic crisis, which Greece has had, it's gone nearly bankrupt. Germany has to start giving it, money to keep it afloat. Then you have what they call a perfect storm of conditions that allow a group like this to flourish. I mean, we've talked about that with the Sons of Odin, but this group by far is the scariest of the groups that we'll encounter.
Because they have political power.
I was just thinking, we mentioned these same tactics talking about the soldiers of Odin, and the difference here is that Greece had this big issue and left a much higher population open to the idea that this fascist organization could fix the problems that the government couldn't. The Golden Dawn doesn't actually have to have any solutions to any problems or do anything. All they have to do is say, look what the government can't do. Mm-hmm. So,
I agree.
And you see starving Greeks, and literally starving Greeks, in these long lines, holding out their IDs to the Golden Dawn saying, look, I am a Greek citizen. I am a Greek. And they're getting food. They're getting their needs met where the government is not doing it. And you see these big, massive lines, and they will physically escort migrants.
People that don't have them.
Yeah.
They don't even necessarily have to be a migrant. They just have to not be part of the Golden Dawn. But so the Golden Dawn started in December of 1980. It was started by a guy and I'm going to fucking butcher the last name. So it's Nicholas Michalolokos. And he's still actually in the party today. Still running shit. And him and a group of supporters launched it. So it's a far right political party. And he's been arrested a few times too, I'm reading here as well,
And the scary part is, Dave, they were silent. Like you said, they started in the 80s. Yet no one heard about the Golden Dawn until recently.
Well, no, that's not necessarily true, because the Golden Dawn, which was officially recognized as a political party in 1993.
Yeah, but it didn't have the political sway that it has now, is what I mean. People outside of Greece would never have heard of the Golden Dawn had it not been for this massive economic crisis and the massive influx of refugees that have gone through, and how they're gaining momentum day by day in Greece.
So there was one instance before the economic crash in Greece that they're writing about here. It says Golden Dawn remained largely in margins of far-right politics until the Macedonia naming dispute in 1991 and 1992. Greek newspaper Eleftheropia reported that on October 10th, 1992, about 30 Golden Dawn members attacked students at the Athens University of Economics and Business during a massive demonstration against the use of the name Macedonia by the Republic of Macedonia. Around the same time, the first far-right street gangs appeared under the leadership of Giannis Giannopoulos, a former military officer who was involved in the South Afrikaner, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. I'm just not even going to bother. There's 20 letters in that. During the 1980s, after the events of 1991, 1992, Golden Dawn had gained a stable membership of more than 200 members, and Giannopoulos rose within the party's hierarchy. Golden Dawn ran in 1994 European Parliament elections, gaining 7,264 votes nationwide, or 1% of the votes cast. You couple that to the last elections where they got 12% of the votes that were for them, and they're in the polls at 22% now.
Yeah, and you're going to see a steamrolling going up higher and higher as more migrants move through it.
Which you'd find interesting, but do you know what group is actually like physically fighting them in the streets? It's the anarchists.
Oh, you're fighting the Golden Dawn, you mean?
The Golden Dawn in the streets,
Yeah.
like throwing Molotov cocktails at each other, like bat chain and knife fight. It's Europe, so don't really have a lot of guns. So the far left socialists, the anarchists, and the far right fascists in Europe, they're all having a little dance of conflicts. Like even in countries like Sweden, this is happening, but specifically in Greece, it's the anarchists versus the fascists.
Yeah, and it's funny because both are trying to get the hearts and minds, quote unquote, of the people that they, of Greece. And both are on, the horseshoe, the political horseshoe. They're direct opposites of each other.
Yeah. And how do you think a country that is in so much financial trouble because of bad policies from left-wing parties? Because I don't know if, Cory, you know much about the economic troubles in Greece?
No, not a lot, no.
Okay, so they had a socialist party for a very long time, but it was a social democrat, you want to say, because their economy was more capitalist. But the issue is that they were civil servants were retiring at 50 or 55 and getting their full package. So for the rest of their life, they were paying these civil servants out. They cut back the work hours during the week. So after the 2008 worldwide economic crash, they couldn't sustain the social structure and the social nest egg that they had put together in that country. So they wouldn't vote to do changes to cut back on what they're doing because they had already promised these people you can retire at 50 or 55 or whatever and receive benefits for the rest of your life, and they just crashed. And then so countries were Germany and England kept bailing them out, but eventually, like 3 or 4 times, they got bailed out from bankruptcy. Eventually, the EU stepped back and is like, we can't just keep bailing you guys out. Like, you have to figure something out. So inside their own government, there's kind of a governmental crash. So Greece is like rife for this party. This is like, Germany 1930 waiting to happen.
Yeah, easy.
It really is.
Yeah. And
not actually surprising that these kind of groups can take power and then have conflict in the streets and nobody can seem to do anything about it.
No, and can you imagine being in Greece? Your government is pretty much garbage. You're starving because you don't have a job. There's money is worthless. You have someone telling you, this is the reason why you're in such a poverty right now. Here is the reason. We can fix this. All you have to do is mark an X. And in the meantime, I'm going to feed you in the process.
It should be important to add that youth unemployment, so the 16 to 25 range in Greece, is over 50%. So like when Edward says that people are starving, he literally means they're starving. There's no fucking work for them. Their system has failed. The government has failed. And you have people telling you that they can fix it and that they're feeding you. And they're pointing to the migrants as the problem and to the failed government as the problem. It's a no-brainer that this can escalate into the situation that it has.
And the fact that the European Union is bailing them out, the sense of Greek nationalism and the Greek pride is being hurt as well. Greece has an enormous sense of pride in itself. It's the cradle of Western democracy. And when it failed, and we have to rely on other countries to bail it out, many of its citizens, that were so used to being, prideful in their country, seeing it wrecked, have lost that sense of pride and are actually turning on the countries.
I got news for you, Ed. Every single European country has that same pride.
Oh, I agree.
Not a European country that you can name that isn't like super duper like proud people.
No, but what I'm saying is the Greek country, the country of Greece and the populace of Greece saw Germany as an invading body on an economic front, not as a war front.
Yeah.
They saw it as an invader, and so you also get the Golden Dawn fighting against that as well. So it's a perfect storm.
I'm learning tons here, guys, with this international politics and economical issues that are playing. Like, to me, it sounds like the economical issues, the financial issues, are the center of the rise of these types of groups. It seems to be like sort of the center of everything, and how the various democracies have handled various stakes in politics, in money, in dealing with their constituents and dealing with the populace. We see that. We sort of see the answer to that, and then we see the rise in these groups. And for one of these right-wing groups to give their solution to the problem of these economical crises, I think we have to sort of say, what is democracy doing? What does democracy say about income inequality, all these different issues? Are we handling it properly? And do we have something to answer for this rise in these extreme groups? And I think it's something.
Yeah, because with fascism, they claim that the liberalism is outdated, that like your voted in government is inept. I can fix this solution for you. See, I'm feeding you now. That is the problem over there. I'm going to take care of that problem. After that, the jobs will come back and it'll all start again. But part and parcel of the situation in Greece actually stems from population crisis in Germany. Okay, so let me unpack this. German birth rates compared to even other Western nations is very, very low. Germany has the largest economy in Europe. It's a massive economy. They don't have enough people, and they're not birthing enough people to sustain that economy past 2050 at the current rate. And this is all database. This isn't something that like a crazy conspiracy person made up. You could see that Merkel's opening the borders and saying, like, we'll take, whether or not part of it was goodwill or not, you could see that huge influx of 1 million people into their country, because they said things like, we're going to fix this problem with immigrants and with migrants, and there'll be a point in Germany when you go to a market and everybody will be not ethnically born German, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But how they got there was heading through Greece, right? So Merkel says, and Merkel is the Chancellor of Germany, if you didn't know. She says, come to Germany. So 1 million plus people march through Greece. They're unvetted. So you get the criminal and some terrorists that come with them. The majority is not, obviously. They're going to be hardworking, grateful people that come through. And then because some of them are criminal and some of them are terrorists in Greece, and then now in Germany, the right-wing people, and obviously Golden Dawn is not a problem in Germany, but there are like right-wing groups in Germany that can now point to this, and even just regular right-wing people, and say, you invited all these people into our country, you didn't vet them, they're now killing our citizens, you're inept, and really, you can't say that wasn't a bad fucking move. You can't say that letting in 1 million people unvetted wasn't a fucking bad move, because German-born people died. So if you're a German-born person and you're looking at that, you gotta say, yeah, you're kind of right, that was a bit of a mistake, right?
Right, and you can't look at it like, I know I can hear some of the reaction that what is going to happen from this is that we don't like immigrants, and all these people, the Syrians, need to be relocated.
And they need to be there. Fuck yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Of course they do.
But what we're saying is that there is a process to get people into a country. And by disregarding that process, it delays people getting into the country. But it also weeds out those that will cause harm, those that will do damage, the criminal element, as we call it. By vetting those out and getting the people that really deserve to be established in a new country, those people are also going to become victims, because they're going to be labeled with the same brush as the criminal element and the terrorist element, because of the fact that you did not do the due diligence necessary to make it safe for everybody involved.
And God damn it, if you want all those people, go pick them up.
Yeah.
We flew ours in. Don't let them trample through fucking Greece and Spain and everywhere else to get to fucking Germany. If you want those people, Merkel, I'm specifically talking to the Chancellor of Germany now, go pick them up. You have the money, go go fucking pick them up. Don't let them ruin other people's backyards, because now we're dealing with the fucking Golden Dawn at 22%. And now they're in my goddamn country and in yours down south.
Part of the screwed up thing too is that these right-wing groups don't really know the immigration process that the people they've targeted. They don't know. Like, did you go in through this way? Did you go in through Greece? Did you go in through, were you vetted properly? They don't know. They just see, I guess, they just see the paper, they see the skin color or whatever, and they kind of target. And I guess that's a part of the problem too. You don't.
Right. And the reason why they ask for papers, if an immigrant came there legally and through the process, the chain of command, we just for ease of use, they look at they have papers that show that they're actually contributing to the economy of Greece. There are vendors there that do not, they're making a living for their families, but they're not adding anything to the economy of Greece because they're not being taxed. They are illegal immigrant. That's one of the reasons why the Golden Dawn uses that as a prescription, is that they're good with immigrants that come in that help the economy run. Those that don't have papers, they're brutal. They'll actually not just destroy what they have, they'll beat them. They have wooden mallets that they'll come and beat them with. It's disturbing to see. In preparation, we watched a couple of these videos, and it reminds you literally of Nazis going after Jewish people, looking for that armband.
You've seen their symbol, right? Have David and Cory, have you seen their symbol?
Yeah, I saw it on the wiki page there.
Yeah, David, look at their symbol. It's a swastika broken down and then put into different directions. Hellenic Parliament, they have 18 out of 300 seats. European Parliament, they have 3 out of 21 seats. Regions, they control 26 regions out of 725. Like, it's not like this isn't a problem. They also have a youth group, which they call the Youth Front. And I'm sorry, anything with the word front in it, storm front, fucking backdoor front, they're racist right off the bat. So their ideology is ultranationalism, Metexism. I don't want to go too deep down a rabbit hole into ideologies here. So if you want to look it up, it's Metaxism. Greek nationalism, Euro skepticism.
And that comes from the fact that the European Union, they're skeptic about being part of the European Union.
Okay. And then anti-globalism, which we're seeing a lot in North America these days too, right?
Yeah, that seems to be pretty common among the far right type mentality.
The Illuminati controlling the world.
Yeah.
It's a government conspiracy. They're here to control your mind. We're going to head into the break, and we'll be right back. Okay, and in this next segment, we're going to head over to Africa, and South Africa specifically. We're going to talk about a white nationalist group that is in favor of apartheid and wants to bring it back.
This article comes from the Mail Online, and it's entitled, this is a doozy, Preparing for Race War. The South African white supremacist boot camps, which are training thousands of youths to fight blacks and create an apartheid state. The far-right Afrikaner resistance movement fighting for separate white state, recruit age 15 states, you cannot mix nation, and I don't have black friends. Youth subjected to vile racist indoctrination by apartheid-era leaders. They are told, we look different. They have thick lips, we have thin lips. So these people are bigoted bastards.
Wow, well, that's just like, wow, that's a really good reason to not like somebody is the size of their lips. Like, holy fuck, man. Okay, carry on.
Deep in rural South Africa, a terrifying white supremacist movement is brainwashing teenagers to rise up in defiance of Nelson Mandela's hard-fought dream of a rainbow nation. The far-right Afrikaner resistance movement, otherwise known as AWB, is training thousands of youths in military-style boot camps northwest of Johannesburg to fight for a separate white state. By day, they are pushed to their physical limits with assault courses and self-defense lessons, all while being told of the danger from the millions of blacks trying to kill you. Then by night, they are subjected to vile racist indoctrination, which many hoped had disappeared from South Africa for good. And to go with this article, I'll just put this in. This shows a picture of a young boy. He's covered with, I guess he's supposed to represent the black part of the country. He's painted black, wearing a brown shirt, as what a Nazi would wear. And
so blackface.
They've actually made him a black.
Really?
And he has.
Blackface? You're gonna do that? Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they have a gun to his head in the picture. So the kid looks about 15. And here's what it says. I don't have any black friends is the caption. Dion Bernard, a 15-year-old nicknamed Sparky, has a gun placed against his head during a self-defense lesson at the Afrikaner resistance movement camp near Johannesburg. For Dion Bernard, a 15-year-old boy enrolled in the latest camp, the seeds of old hatred are already cemented in his mind. In the Bible, it says that black people must live with black people and white people must live with white people. So we have the religious crap mixed in. You cannot mix nations. I have no black friends, and if they come to my side and ask to speak to me, I will say no, or I will turn my back to them and walk away. Dion comes from a deeply religious family, part of a small but determined minority of Afrikaner people who still yearn for apartheid-era politics. He is one of more than 2,000 teenagers who have attended Commando Corps, a AWB endurance camp for white youngsters, over the last 2 years. Filmmakers followed their story for a controversial documentary called Fatherland by TIA Productions. They are burning the South African flag in this next picture, and they are doing military maneuvers. It's disgusting. So I'm going to leave it there, and let's get into the story.
So this group, they, like you just said, they burned the modern day South African flag, the colors that of the flag that Nelson Mandela had asked for, which was a rainbow nation. And they used the old apartheid flag, which has the Dutch orange and like the colonialism in it. I think it's important that we have a little bit of background. It's a really touchy subject, and yet you really have to pay attention to nuance in what I'm saying here. So there are 4 million Afrikaans, or white South Africans, and there are 30 million black South Africans. So the minority had ruled the majority, and it was an evil system that separated people. It was against the law for races to mingle. So whites, it's very common to just be like, those are the blacks, those are the whites, and then colors were the people that were mixed, that when the law was broken and whites and blacks did get together and have children. So inside of colors, you would have coloreds, you'd have Indians, and then of mixed races. And they actually separated them in cities and put them into, like, for lack of better terms, ghettos. The blacks over here, the whites over here. And the blacks got less education than the whites. So I guess the apartheid government decided for international appeasement, they would say, well, we are educating them. But they wouldn't, just like in Canada with the natives, they wouldn't receive the same type of education that the whites would. They didn't receive proper pay for the work that they did. They would work in the diamond mines and, in domestic homes and be treated like crap and told that they couldn't walk on this side of the street. They weren't allowed to go to this beach. It was a very hard regime. They had the pass system that was invented in Canada that, if you were going from your ghetto to work or whatever, you would have to have this pass on you. If you were caught without this pass, the police would capture you, drag you in, beat you, maybe kill you. And if they didn't kill you, they would bring you back. So flash forward to the first uprisings of Nelson Mandela and the ANC. Nelson Mandela did, in fact, run the military wing of the ANC. People call him a freedom fighter. That's fine. I don't have a problem with people calling him a freedom fighter. Some of the acts that the ANC did, like, say, blowing up a church or restaurant where women and children that had nothing to do with the apartheid government, where I like me, myself, I can't say I wouldn't 100% subscribe to that because I'm not in the situation. But the person that I am now, I wouldn't subscribe to killing people. So Nelson Mandela fights apartheid. Everybody knows that story. But it's not as simple as just the ANC taking control of South Africa. There were other black nationalist groups that had political aspirations that wanted to also take over the country, because as we know, that election that Nelson Mandela was nominated was a democratic election. Nelson Mandela's wife, Winnie, this is a term, it's going to fucking be nasty to people, but they have a term for way of handling people in South Africa. It's called necklacing. And what they do is they put a tire over somebody that's filled with petrol or gasoline, and they light it on fire. So any black South Africans that were from a different political party or that were conspiring with the apartheid government or suspected of it, Winnie would necklace them. Not Nelson Mandela, not himself specifically, but his wife Winnie. So there's a very famous speech that she did: "With our matchboxes and our necklaces, we'll take this country." That just kind of set up the violence of the ANC, the political party themselves. So now that Nelson Mandela is gone, and the idea of the Rainbow Nation kind of passed with him, because the president of South Africa, his name is Jacob Zuma. You guys can look this up on YouTube. When the apartheid government was in system, they had a song called "Kill the Boer, Shoot the Boer," because obviously they were being oppressed and they wanted this to happen. The president of South Africa, no less than 4 years ago, was caught on film at an ANC rally singing "Kill the Boer, Shoot the Boer." So you kind of have to understand that murder rate is super high in South Africa. A lot of it is black to white because of the resentment that from the past apartheid system, that again, it's a system that is rife for these type of ideologies to kind of fester. Bringing it back to the group that we're talking about in particular, it's actually the parents that send these fucking kids to this group, because they're 15, 16, 17-year-old children. So it's the parents that were alive during apartheid, because apartheid's been gone for 22 years or something like that. It's the parents that were alive during apartheid that actually want to bring the system back. Because these fucking children don't know the goddamn system of apartheid. They never lived in it. They've lived in a completely different South Africa than their parents did. So I don't really believe 100%, at least from the other than maybe a few people like Nelson Mandela, that fucking racism between black and white in South Africa actually left, because it's the parents that are sending them. And I'm sorry to I know it's a really fucking touchy subject, and I do not agree with apartheid, and I do not agree with the system that even today that's there, the high crime rate, the racial crimes that happen from both sides. And I don't want people to think that I'm okay with what's going on, because I'm super not. I just wanted to get the information out there to you. That's it.
Yeah, many people that look at what happened in South Africa don't realize the brutality that went on between both sides of the apartheid system, and it has to be explained so that we can get the truth out there. And it's not comfortable to be talking about it, but it needs.
No, I'm super uncomfortable right now. I feel like maybe I shouldn't have put that information out there because I'm worried about how people are going to look at me. But it literally is the truth of it, right?
Right.
So like Winnie was even after the apartheid system was over, was charged for murder, killing a 14-year-old black boy because she said that he conspired with whites. I don't know how else to put it.
Right. But I mean, this is something that needs to, I mean, it doesn't excuse the horrifying behavior of the apartheid system. It doesn't excuse anything. We're not talking about, what we're talking about is the truth of what happened. It's a fact. It's like talking about Nazi Germany. There is a truth that happened, and it needs to be talked. It's uncomfortable. It's not great. But to understand what's happening now, you do need to understand what happened then.
Yes. And it's the parents of the people from the apartheid system that are dragging this forward. So my hope is that after that generation is gone, other than the few thousand that they've sent to this indoctrination camp, this military style camp, that maybe soon, I mean, apartheid wasn't that long ago. It's not like slavery in the States, which was, more than 100 years ago. Maybe it'll turn to what it is in North America.
Yeah.
How it is in North America. You know what I mean?
Yes. To go along with what you just said about it's the parents, I'm going to read you some quotes by some of these people. And this is the camp is run by Colonel Jost, a veteran of South African apartheid era. He was a veteran. He states, quote, "South Africa is bleeding, and this is why we have to train our people to be prepared. There's millions and millions of blacks around you, smothering you and killing you. So you have to implement certain systems to survive. And that's why we say the only system we can now go for is not apartheid. That's the second prize. The first prize is freedom," end quote. And the person who wrote this article goes on to say, his lectures sounds like something taken straight out of the slave trade era. These individuals are not just bigots. They're beyond bigots. They want to physically, militarily create a white state within the South African context. And this is something that is not getting international attention that it needs and it deserves, because we need to stop this from happening. Period.
They are also like you were talking about the religion. White South Africans are crazy religious. Like, they seriously believe that white people are God's chosen people and that black people are, not human, and that, like, these ones. I'm not talking about all white South Africans. So I want to clarify that, because there are, obviously tons of people that didn't grow up in apartheid and not taking part in that. But the ones that are taking part in that are super, super religious, and not religious in a good way. It's like the worst part of Christianity.
To even describe what's going on in some of these clips from the videos, it's making me it's not only making me angry, it sickens me to know that there's people out there that believe that they have some superiority over another individual based on the color of their skin. To have that kind of mentality, I thought we had banished when the apartheid system was crushed. To know that it still exists is beyond understanding, and also beyond any scope of imagination that I, as a Canadian citizen, can even understand. I find it very, very disgusting.
Well, here, I'm going to give you a little history lesson then, because you as a Canadian citizen should be able to understand this. Because the apartheid system, the blueprint for the apartheid system, is Canadian. The South African government actually came to Canada to learn past system, the reservation system, how we kept natives in, for lack of better terms, in check, and how we kept them away from us, living in the same country but keeping them apart. And that is literally the history of South Africa's apartheid. It came from Canada.
Being part Native American as well, it kind of, I do see the parallels, but it does make me still disgusted that this kind of mentality is still prominent today.
Of course.
Of course.
It's pretty intense, like the amount of hatred that just goes on, and I have a lot of trouble really grasping it. So it's
I can't imagine having that kind of a mentality. To be that vitriolic about something so minor, so trivial how can you be vitriolic about someone with a melanin difference in your skin? One of the things that blows my mind is South Africa has just produced some of the most fantastic fossils of human origins ever to be found, okay? Showing that we are all part of a human family that began in Africa. To know that side by side to that knowledge, that wonderful, beautiful knowledge that we are all part of one legacy, to have people being able to be so vitriolic about something so minor. What I'm saying is that there is no difference between me as a quote-unquote white person and an African a person of African descent, that means black, except that we have less melanin than someone else. That is such a minor distinction. How can someone have in their head that they have a superiority? Whether it is a person that is black having a superiority complex that they're better than a white person, or vice versa, a white person having a superiority complex that they're better than someone that of black descent. That concept has never entered my mind. I don't understand where it comes from.
Yeah, I can't grasp it myself. Like I guess in my job I deal with truckers from all over the place that move to Saskatchewan to work in the oil field. And one of the guys that I talk to on a regular basis, his family is originally from Africa, and he moved to the U.S. and then he came to Saskatchewan to work while his family stays in the U.S. And when I talked to him about racism in the U.S., he basically he figures that it's an issue that will never be fixed, right? And it appears to me, and he mentioned it as well, that the issues in Africa right now are so far worse, right, than the issues in the U.S. that it's hard for anybody to see a solution in the future with this kind of just blatant hatred being perpetuated just constantly. Like it's
yeah, I mean, it's mind-boggling. I mean, we're seeing the counteractions to this type of mentality. I mean, we're seeing black supremacist groups forming. You're seeing white supremacist groups forming, and I don't understand where this comes from. Like, I don't really grasp this concept that how anybody can say that they have a claim to superiority based on skin color or, ethnic origin. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Think about this. 22 years ago in South Africa, it was against the law for me and my wife to be together, and my children were literally breaking their law. You know what I mean? Like, it's against the law for them to exist 22 years ago in South Africa. That is fucking crazy. Only 22 years ago, man. That's insanity.
Yeah, within our lifetime.
Yeah, within my lifetime for sure.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah, no, neither do I.
David?
I hope I didn't
Well, no, I'm gonna get all what's the word called when optimistic, but I probably
sure
way too. This will be resolved by finding life out there on the planets. I think it will be.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that.
In the meantime, we have to deal with our own shit. I mean, like what you guys said, I don't know why someone would say they have a right to a spot of dust on a planet that's hurling across the cosmos. I don't know. Like I'm not sure what to say about that, but
And do you notice though that many of these groups, whether they're a black supremacist group or a white supremacist group, they're always tied to something biblical?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Along with what you were saying, David. So we always hear, and obviously I wasn't there, but you always hear after 9/11 in New York City, everybody was so nice to each other. The problems that existed within New York City beforehand for that time period went away. So maybe if we did have a crazy natural disaster, like fucking big ass comet landed and murked a quarter of the planet, or we did find aliens and we realized that we are actually one race with just genetic variations of the same race, right?
Yeah.
So maybe if we did find another race out there, or another from another planet, whether they would have to be evolved, right?
I would push back on the natural disaster thing. I think that would exacerbate things, because that would drain resources and make everybody. But it's sort of I think it's the perspective that we're not the bee's knees in the cosmos, and there's other people there.
Well, I am. I don't know what the fuck.
Yeah, because there are actually people who still believe that this is the center of the universe, right? So without some kind of external life form showing us that we're not everything that exists, it's tough to negate these internal struggles, right?
It'd be interesting to see, and I don't know if it ever would happen in our lifetime, if there was an alien race that dwarfed anything that the human race has even imagined yet. And to say, how would these religious people come to terms with that there is something that is more powerful than the God the earth that God created? How would they come to terms with something like that? There's
a thought process behind that, and it's if they had the technology to get here, they would be so advanced that you, as the brain that you have now and the way that you see the world, would not be able to differentiate between magic and their technology.
Yeah.
Like it would seem supernatural.
Yeah,
and
but-
they would think that it's supernatural.
We would seem to a race that was more that advanced to us. We would probably look like amoebas to them. I mean, in some respects, we would be so primitive in our biology, maybe in our technology for sure. How would they square that, right? I mean,
Well, they would just come for the resources and then leave. Like, let's be honest.
I mean, why would they?
Like Stephen Hawking says, and this is getting way off topic.
Yeah, I know.
But Stephen Hawking says, stop fucking sending signals. You don't want to encounter these fucks. If they have the technology to pick up the signal and then make it here, they're just going to take what they want. Because just like you step on an ant, if they're that advanced, you're going to be like, we're going to end up in their zoo.
Yeah. Look at these nice, cute little primates running around. Let's go. But
Exactly.
I mean,
They think they're smart.
well, that's right. I mean, but just think of that though for a second, putting it into the context. If something like that were to happen, the idea of race, the idea of ethnicity, the idea of religious dispute would cease to matter, period. Because we already would know that we aren't special, that there are things that are going to be better than us. And at that point, that might be the only thing that unites us in a front against those. You know, if they are, and, you know, and I wanted to go all fucking, Independence Day or anything, but, you know, that whole concept even if they weren't aggressive, they were just super intelligent, that would render our uniqueness moot.
And you just gave me a thought. Some people would be like, we need to ramp up our weapons. We need to ramp up our nukes. Like you would have that fucking Dick Cheney motherfucker that is like, see, they would use that against, he would use that for the military fucking complex too. He'd be like, look at, they can kill us at a fucking, we got to ramp this shit up. You'd have Putin and Trump out there screaming about nukes. It would be awful in some senses.
But I mean, an advanced race that was that, I mean, and probably they'd have defenses against the nuke. But anyway,
there's flat earthers, Ed.
I know.
There's people that believe that the earth is goddamn flat in the government of the goddamn United States of America.
Yeah, I know.
Okay? So you can't say they would look at those people and say, they're too much for us.
But Dick Cheney can't shoot.
It doesn't matter.
As evidenced by shooting someone in the face.
How do you know he didn't aim for the fucker's face?
Because he would have done more damage. He would have done more damage.
Probably fucked his wife. It's like, man, I saw you in that fucking weird conservative orgy last night. My wife came and now I'm going to stick you in the face. Right? Because you've seen that Tom Cruise movie. What's it called?
Eyes Wide Shut.
You know that's like the Republican Party shit right there. Know that's true.
The Illuminati.
That's based on actual events. That's fucking GOP fucking convention. Okay. Well, that brings us to an end of an uncomfortable fucking segment. Don't hate me or kill the messenger or however that fucking saying goes. And, I thought it was a pretty good fucking show, and we'll let Cory plug his shit.
Right. It's Brainstorm Podcast is on iTunes, Stitcher. We are on Spreaker. You can check out our website at brainstormblog.net.
And Cory, if they wanted to contact you specifically about something, how could they do that?
That's mail@brainstormblog.net.
And if they never wanted to listen to this show again because of tonight's episode and they were looking for another Canadian-eccentric podcast, Cory will not talk about Nelson Mandela.
Yeah, we generally try to stick to the less political issues.
You mean you don't want to sound like a racist cunt?
Yeah, no, that's right.
Yeah.
This was the Wayward Atheist Podcast. Visit our new website at waywardatheists.com. Follow us on Spreaker, spreaker.com/waywardatheists. You can email us at waywardatheistpodcast@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter at waywardatheists and on facebook.com/waywardatheists. If you enjoy our content, feel free to leave us a review on iTunes
and feel free to support us at patreon.com/waywardatheists.